In recent days, the media has been airing disturbing footage of massive queues outside bakeries in South Gaza, reporting terrible shortages of flour and bread. At the same time, COGAT, the unit in the IDF responsible for coordinating and facilitating humanitarian aid for Gaza, says 18,000 tons of flour entered the Gaza Strip in November on 600 trucks. So what's going on? Where is all the flour? My name is Jackie Peleg. I'm known on X and elsewhere as Imshin. And since 2018, I have been following a side of life in Gaza that is rarely shared by Western media. How Gazans themselves document their everyday lives for an Arabic speaking audience, as opposed to a Western one. One of the problems facing Hamas since the beginning of the war has been how to continue to pay salaries to their people, especially since the IDF has discovered and confiscated huge amounts of cash found in Hamas terror tunnels. They've done all sorts of things, even resorting to robbing the banks. But by and far the most lucrative money-making scheme has been turning a profit from the hundreds of humanitarian aid trucks that pour into the Gaza Strip weekly, and also dozens of private sector supply trucks. Hamas regularly steals humanitarian aid trucks, taking what they need and selling the surplus for exorbitant prices in the markets. They have even created a special unit of enforcers, the Saham unit, ostensibly to prevent stealing of trucks, but in fact believed by many Gazans to be doing a lot of the stealing itself. Hamas also taxes private sector food imports for half of their worth and more. By taxes, I mean that armed Hamas forces stop the trucks at gunpoint and force the drivers to either pay or give them the merchandise. Between the 16th and the 17th of November, 109 flour trucks were reportedly stolen after entering South Gaza via Kerem Shalom crossing. Hamas claimed the trucks were stolen by criminal gangs, but Gazans on social media said that the only criminal gang capable of pulling off such a large-scale heist was Hamas itself. This is because Hamas continues to control the population and resources in the Gaza Strip with an iron fist. Gazan activist and journalist Hamza al-Masri commented a few days ago that one sack containing 25 kilograms of flour pays the salary of one Hamas Nukhba terrorist for a month. I worked out that if a truck carries 30 tons of flour, that's 1,020 sacks. Then the 109 stolen trucks could pay the salaries of 130,800 terrorists for a month. Of course, we don't know what the money was used for. Al-Masri suggests it was used to recruit new terrorists for Hamas. The fact that Hamas is currently busy recruiting is borne out by other sources as well. But back to the current flour crisis. Although food prices in general had been going up before the heist, and you can watch my video which explains why, this 109 flour truck heist was the trigger that started the so-called flour crisis. With the heist, Hamas, in effect, created an artificial flour shortage, putting severe pressure on the population. And this led to the creation, or perhaps continuation on a higher level, of yet another Hamas money-making scheme. This scheme involves running what Israeli commentator Abu Ali has called a bread cartel. According to Gogat, 12 big bakeries are operating in Gaza, 4 in North Gaza and 8 in South and Central Gaza, producing close to 3 million pita breads a day. The bakeries receive free flour and fuel and are supposed to sell each bag of 10 pita breads for 3 shekels. That's the equivalent of 83 US cents. Descriptions I've seen of how the bread cartel works suggest 2 options. The first option, like in this footage here, is that the queues outside the bakeries are policed by gunmen who make sure that those buying the 3 shekel bags are children and young girls belonging to certain families and crime gangs. The bags are then sold on for 30 to 40 shekels each. That's between $8 to $10. The second option is to sell a small amount of the 3 shekels bags at the bakeries. Of course, everyone converges on the bakeries to try and get a bag of the subsidized bread, creating a massive crush that makes for great propaganda for the Gazans are starving lie. Now, I've seen enough queues in Gaza to know that when they want to, the Gazans are quite capable of enforcing orderly queues and of standing patiently in line for hours on end. So when I see one of these shocking, massive crushes, I can usually tell by the source that it has been manufactured to shock and manipulate a Western audience. What's more, it is more often than not filmed and photographed by Hamas mouthpieces, such as Hassan Slaih, who you may remember also participated in the October 7 massacre. To continue, in this second option, a large proportion of the bread is smuggled out of the back, as you see here filmed in secret by a bakery worker and sold, again, for 30 to 40 shekels for a bag containing 10 pitas, 10 times and more above the official price. My guess is that both option 1 and option 2 are used by the bakeries in tandem. Unsurprisingly, Gazans are tired of these games. After the heist, they started to buy 25 kilogram sacks of flour to make their own bread, which many Gazans have been doing all along, using traditional clay ovens. At first, the prices went absolutely crazy. You could pay anywhere between 600 to 1,000 shekels for a sack of flour. That's between 165 to $280. That's if you could even find any. But relatively quickly, as additional flour trucks entered, prices started to come down again. Now, the strange thing is that while all this fake crisis has been unfolding in South Gaza, in North Gaza, there has been no flour shortage at all. On the contrary, there has been a surplus. And since prices remain low, some flour shipments to the north have even been thrown away, like this one, perhaps to keep the price up. A few days ago, I even came across sacks of 25 kilograms being sold in Gaza for 5 shekels each. That's $1.40 each for 25 kilograms of flour. For Americans, 25 kilograms are just over 55 pounds. My message is to people watching the heartbreaking footage of desperate Gazans being crushed in bread lines in Gaza. I'm afraid to say you are being conned. This is not to say that the Gazans in those crushes are not suffering, but that it is not the result of any real shortage, but a manipulation to exploit both the ordinary Gazans and you. That's all for this time. As I said, I have made other videos explaining the food situation in Gaza, and I'll link to them in the description box below.